like a lot of people here, I travel a lot, maybe too much, but I found that the best way to absorb the lessons and the stimuli that are coming from going abroad and meeting other people and acquiring this kind of a global culture is curiosity. And the more you are willing to listen to people, the more you are willing to pick up on what they have to say, and the more you get enriched. I mean, knowledge is this beautiful thing that the more you share, the more we both have, right? And so I think what we're trying to do here is, can we really, while preserving our specificity, our background, so we're always going to be locals in the city where we live. We're always going to be local in the country where we're from. But we can also be global if we retain the curiosity, the open-mindedness to listen to other people. The main point about the digital self is, first of all, to recognize that it exists. And we're not there yet. There are bits and pieces of our digital selves that are kind of scattered around, and we kind of see the digital self whenever we have to enter up, user ID and password. So we continue to experiment with digital self. But there is no common definition of what it is, what does it include. So that's the first point. The second point is, if you want, who controls it? And how we as users, well, now, the easy answer is the user should control it, but in practical terms, what does it mean? How can I decide that I don't want to share my personal detail with a brand or with an organization? And the third is, perhaps, once you put it all together, how can I use my digital self, my existence into the digital world to make my user experience of the digital world better? A typical example I always use is that of the word Apple. And Apple could be a company, as we all know, could be a record label, it could be a fruit. Now, if I always have to explain which instance of Apple I want to use, that's kind of not efficient. But if anybody was able to look at my background and to kind of contextualize why I'm talking about Apple, they could pretty much figure out whether I'm talking about the record company or the computer company or the fruit, perhaps. And so I think the digital self has an issue of recognition, an issue of control, and an issue of putting it to work for the user. I don't think we know enough about ourselves to be able to judge whether something has truly global appeal. Another example that obviously jumps to mind is sports. When you see that there are 2 billion people as an audience for the football World Cup, that tells you something. It's a common desire of kids to play together, to have fun together. So again, it comes back to some of the deepest needs that we have as human beings, to feel good and to want to achieve something. Well, language is beautiful because it allows us to express the nuances of what we feel, but at the same time, it can be a huge barrier because, the simple act of sharing becomes so much more difficult. So I'm not quite sure what the solution is, because, if you were to advocate for one common language, then of course you would lose a lot. Think about the beautiful literature that's been written in all the world languages, and that would go away. So I don't know, perhaps if we had something like a Google Translator that really worked well, would allow me to read War and Peace in Russian and understand it, but I can't do it. One thing that I always say is, for example, when you watch a movie, in a lot of Western Europe countries, movies are dubbed from original language, so they're not subtitled. And I always say, well, you're not really watching Robert De Niro, you're watching whoever dubs Robert De Niro playing. So, is this the real thing, or is it another product altogether? So I think, it's a huge problem. Now, I think there is technology that's been addressing this by looking at, because language, when you think about it, language is just an expression of a thought. And so if we are able to abstract from the expression back to the concept, if you and I are both cat lovers, for example, the concept of cats is the same. It's basically the same, and we could mirror a lot of the warm feelings about owning a cat, and and having a cat in the house, and all those kinds of things, without needing too much to translate every single word. We can establish a bond that's based on the higher concept of warm and fuzzy little pet, rather than all the words that in Russian or in Italian express those feelings. So if we can elevate and focus instead of the word on the concept, there is work underway right now in technology trying to address that. So maybe that's a solution. Stop communicating through words and start communicating through concepts. Well, obviously the one that comes closest is English, simply because of the sheer size and number of people. But I think there is a language, and that is the language of images. If you look at the success of things like Tumblr or Pinterest or Instagram, the success is because they have an instantly global audience. When I take a picture of a nice sunset, I don't have to explain what it is. People around the globe will immediately connect with a beautiful sunset, or a beautiful mountain, or a beautiful scenery, or cat, So I think the language of images is the universal Esperanto of the internet, simply because it's so easy to share them, and people connect and like and dislike, and because on the concept. Yeah, my daughter asked me, what does it mean? And I said, I don't know. I don't find it hard. And I think most people, like myself, are constantly have several tasks going on in parallel. All the time you're thinking about, that leaking faucet you have to fix in the bathroom, or your children coming back from school, and mortgage you have to pay, and work and client demands. So we keep going in a different direction. I think technology so that's a trait of human mind. The human mind is great at keeping many balls in the air, right? And I don't think I'm special, because if I look around, people do this all the time. What I think technology is enabling us is to be able to express all those streams of different thoughts and channel them to other people. And so all those thoughts, the difference, when you talk about somebody that's always multitasking, what you really mean is that somebody that is actually allowing the natural multi-stream nature of its mind to actually come out. And so you see this person popping up in all kinds of different places. And I think in that respect, technology has a great role, because it makes it easier to do that. If I had to move from one domain to another, but there is technology that allows you to do this. But I find that I can have like 4 or 5 conversations at any given point in time, and I don't think I'm that special. People do this all the time. But the way to efficiently balance this is perhaps where technology comes in handy. So I don't know. A titan. I'm too old to be a titan of the future. Come on, 56. Look at my hair. Titan of the past, perhaps. As always, and as I said, because a friend asked me, why are you going there? And the answer is, I'm very happy I came. And the reason I'm very happy is because, once again, this format is perhaps a magical compendium of science and globality and the ability to talk to each other. So I feel like, if this, and of course I know you guys want for this to become a big success, and it will over time, but if we had 20,000 people in Davos, it would probably be a little bit more difficult to have the kind of all complete exchange that we had here. So I'm very happy that I'm here at an early stage of what I think is going to become a very big thing.